My wife said her girls' trip was about healing. I found her second phone. I trusted my wife when she said she needed space after our miscarriage. Months later, I accidentally synced her iCloud and discovered a second phone tied to a man funding her healing. I didn't confront her. I waited, gathered proof, and let her reveal herself in front of everyone who doubted me. I didn't know a phone could feel heavier than grief until I held hers in my hand. It was late, one of those nights when the house settles into itself and every sound feels louder because you're finally still. The refrigerator hummed. The hallway clock clicked forward with stubborn patience. I was sitting on the edge of our bed, her side empty, the sheets still folded back the way she liked them, when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wasn't snooping, that's important to say. I was just tired in the way you get after months of pretending you're okay, because the other person looks like they're barely holding together. My wife, Lena, had left that morning for what she called a girls' trip. Healing, she said. A cabin near Sedona, yoga, silence, space to breathe again after the miscarriage. I believed her. I needed to. The notification lit up the screen, just enough for me to read the preview. I've got everything covered this month. Don't stress. No name, just a number. I told myself it was nothing, a friend, one of the girls, maybe her sister, but my chest tightened anyway, that familiar pressure that had been living there since the hospital room with the muted TV and the nurse who wouldn't meet my eyes. Before everything broke, our life had been simple in the best way. We met 12 years ago at a friend's backyard barbecue. Lena wore a faded denim jacket and laughed with her whole body, head thrown back, hands clapping once like she surprised herself. She spilled mustard on my shoe and apologized so hard you'd think she'd committed a crime. I liked her immediately. We built our marriage slowly. Sunday morning pancakes, shared grocery lists on the fridge, arguments about paint colors that ended in takeout and compromise. We weren't flashy, but we were steady, or at least I thought we were. The pregnancy came after years of maybe next year. We didn't tell anyone at first, just us, standing in the bathroom at 6 in the morning, the light too bright, her hands shaking as she stared at the test. When we lost the baby at 14 weeks, the world didn't shatter loudly. It went quiet, too quiet. Lena withdrew into herself, not dramatically, no screaming, no breakdowns, just small disappearances, longer showers, walks alone after dinner, her laughter thinning out like it was being rationed. I tried to give her what she asked for, space, understanding, patience. So when she said she wanted to go away with friends to heal, I packed her bag with care, slid her favorite sweater inside, kissed her forehead at the door. "Text me when you land," I said. She smiled, soft and tired. "I will. Thank you for understanding." That night, after the phone buzzed, I didn't unlock it. I set it back down like it might burn me. I told myself grief makes people weird, that I was being paranoid because pain messes with your head. But the next day, something small happened, something easy to miss. I was paying bills on my laptop when a pop-up appeared, an iCloud notification asking to verify a new device. At first, I thought it was a glitch. We shared an account for years, phones, photos, calendars, our lives stitched together in data. The device name blinked on the screen, Lena's iPhone, L. The L stopped me. Her phone was already registered, always had been. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. The cursor blinked, waiting. The house smelled faintly of coffee gone cold. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked, then went quiet. I clicked later. That afternoon, Lena texted me a photo of red rocks under a wide blue sky. Healing, the caption read, a heart emoji at the end. I sent back, "Looks beautiful. Miss you." She didn't respond for hours. That night, I lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling fan as it turned shadows into slow circles. I told myself that love meant trust, especially now, especially after everything we'd lost. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about that second phone, the anonymous message, the way her voice had hesitated just slightly when she said the trip was fully paid for by the girls. I didn't confront her, not then. I just waited. and listened and started paying attention to the quiet. Grief teaches you how to listen to silence. In the days after Lena left, the house felt like it was holding its breath. I went through the motions, work emails, reheated dinners, folding laundry that didn't need folding, while my mind replayed small moments I'd ignored before. Not red flags, more like hairline cracks. She used to leave her phone face up on the counter. Lately, it was always face down. She used to hum when she cooked. That stopped months ago. She used to tell me everything. Who said what, how it made her feel. Now her stories came pre-edited. I kept telling myself this was grief, that there was no right way to lose a child, that love meant letting people survive however they needed to. But the iCloud notification wouldn't leave me alone. On the third night, I sat at my desk with a glass of water I kept forgetting to drink. The room smelled faintly of dust and printer ink. My laptop screen glowed in the dark like an accusation. I logged into our shared iCloud account. At first, nothing looked unusual. Our photo stream ended around the time of the miscarriage. After that, she'd stopped taking pictures, or at least stopped saving them where I could see. Then I clicked Devices. 2 phones, both hers. One labeled Lena's phone, the other Lena's phone L. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. My body felt strangely calm, like it had been preparing for this moment without my permission. I clicked the second device. Location services were on. The map loaded slowly, the blue dot pulsing in a place that was not Sedona. It was a coastal city, high-rise hotels, expensive ones. For a long time, I just stared. The fan whirred behind me. Somewhere down the block, someone laughed. Life, apparently, was still happening. I closed the laptop. That might sound like denial, but it wasn't. It was restraint. I needed to understand what I was looking at before I destroyed what was left of us. Over the next week, I noticed patterns. Her texts came at odd hours, always short. Busy today. Energy's low. Therapy session ran long. She never called, not once. When I checked our shared bank account, I noticed fewer withdrawals than expected. No cabin rental, no group dinners, no gas charges from a road trip. Instead, there were deposits, large ones, marked as transfers, private. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was becoming someone I didn't want to be. Then the photos appeared. I wasn't looking for them. They surfaced automatically when I opened the Photos app, images syncing from the second phone into the cloud. The first was harmless enough, a hotel room window overlooking the ocean, white curtains billowing, a glass of wine on the table. The second photo changed everything. Lena was in it. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Blue, soft fabric that caught the light. Her hair was done carefully, not the messy bun she wore when she was just trying to breathe. She was smiling, not the polite, tired smile she'd been wearing for months. This one reached her eyes. A man stood beside her, his arm just out of frame, but close enough to be unmistakable. I zoomed in without realizing I was doing it. Her reflection caught in the mirror behind them told the rest of the story. They were together. I sat back in my chair, the air knocked out of me. My ears rang. I thought of the hospital bracelet still tucked in my nightstand drawer, of the way she'd cried into my chest and whispered, "I don't know who I am anymore." I believed her. The messages confirmed what the photo only hinted at. He wasn't just a secret, he was a benefactor. I booked the suite for another week. Use the card I left in the drawer. You deserve rest. Let me take care of you. The tone wasn't flirtatious. It was confident, assured, like someone who thought he owned the role I used to play. I learned his name, Marcus, late 40s, divorced, real estate, the kind of man who writes checks instead of apologies. There were no declarations of love, no dramatic promises, just comfort, money, escape. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not rage, not yet. Something heavier, understanding. Lena hadn't gone looking for an affair. She'd gone looking for relief, and someone with means had stepped in when she felt I couldn't fix her pain. That realization hurt more than the betrayal itself. I didn't message her. I didn't call. I didn't confront. Instead, I started documenting everything. Screenshots, dates, transfers, locations. If this was going to end, it wasn't going to end in confusion or denial. It was going to end in clarity. And if she wanted healing, I was going to let the truth do its work.
Waiting is its own kind of violence. Every day Lena stayed away, the truth settled deeper into my bones. I went to work, I answered emails, I nodded at conversations I didn't hear. At night, I sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, the glow from my laptop illuminating a version of my marriage I no longer recognized. I didn't hate her. That surprised me. What I felt was quieter and more dangerous. Disappointment layered with grief, like sediment at the bottom of a river. This wasn't a reckless fling. It was a choice she'd made carefully, with intention, and that meant there would be consequences, whether she was ready to face them or not. Lena came home on a Sunday evening. I heard her suitcase wheels before I saw her, the familiar rattle over the front step. The door opened slowly, like she was bracing herself for something. "Hey," she said, softly. I stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the living room, arms relaxed at my sides. I looked at her the way you look at a place you used to live. "You're back," I said. She nodded. "Yeah, the trip. It helped." She smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar. Hotel soap, ocean air, someone else's space. We hugged briefly. Her body was tense, like she expected me to ask questions. I didn't. Over the next few days, I played my part. I listened when she talked about therapy circles and early morning meditations. I made her tea at night. I asked if she was sleeping better. She answered easily, too easily. At dinner one night, she mentioned Marcus for the first time. "Some guy in the group," she said, spearing a piece of chicken. "He's been really supportive. Paid for a lot of shared stuff so no one felt stressed." My fork paused midair. "That's generous," she shrugged. "He's just kind." That word echoed in my head. Later, when she showered, I sat on the bed and opened my laptop. I wasn't looking for more proof. I already had enough. What I was looking for was context. Marcus wasn't hiding. He had a public profile, charity galas, fundraisers, photos with people who smile the way people do when they're used to being admired. I found his divorce filing 2 years ago. No kids, settlement generous. A man who fixed loneliness with money. That week, Lena invited her sister and a few friends over for dinner. A re-entry, she called it, a way to feel normal again. I agreed. They filled the house with noise and laughter, shoes by the door, wine glasses clinking. For a moment, I almost believed we were okay. At some point, her sister squeezed my hand. "You're such a good husband," she said. "Most men wouldn't give that much space." I smiled. The compliment felt like a test I was about to fail. After dessert, Lena stood up and tapped her glass. "I just want to say something," she said. "This trip reminded me how important community is, how healing happens when we're supported." She looked at me. Her eyes were shining. "And I'm grateful to you for trusting me." The room murmured approval. That's when I stood. "I'm glad you brought up support," I said, keeping my voice steady, "because there's something I think we should talk about. Together." Lena's smile faltered just slightly. I reached into my pocket and placed her second phone on the table. The sound it made, plastic against wood, cut through the room like a blade. No one spoke. Her sister frowned. "What's that?" Lena didn't answer. She was staring at the phone like it had betrayed her. I didn't go looking for this. It found me. Her friends shifted uncomfortably. Someone cleared their throat. "I know about the hotel, the money, Marcus." The name landed hard. Lena's face drained of color. "This isn't what it looks like," she said automatically. "I know. It's exactly what it is." Silence stretched. I wasn't angry. That was the strange part. I felt clear, calm, like I'd stepped out of a storm and could finally see the damage. I didn't want to embarrass you, but I also wasn't going to be made a fool in my own home. Her sister stood up slowly. "Lena, is this true?" Lena opened her mouth, closed it. Tears filled her eyes, but they didn't fall. "He helped me when I was drowning. I didn't plan for it to become this." I looked at her then, really looked, at the woman I'd loved, at the pain that had cracked her open enough to let someone else inside. "And you let everyone believe I wasn't enough," I said quietly. No one defended her. No one attacked her. The truth had done its work. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just said, "I think it's time we stop pretending."
No one left right away. That's the thing people don't tell you about moments like that. The room doesn't explode. It doesn't collapse. It just sits there, stunned, like it's waiting for instructions. Lena's friends avoided her eyes. Her sister crossed her arms, then uncrossed them, like she was trying to decide which version of Lena she was allowed to stand beside. Someone quietly pushed their chair back. Another picked up a purse they didn't really need yet. Lena finally spoke. Can we not do this here? I looked around the room, at the half-empty wine glasses, at the cake we'd barely touched, at the people who had spent months telling me how lucky she was to have such a patient husband. This is where you told everyone how grateful you were, I said. So yeah, this is where we do it. She flinched. Not dramatically, just a small, human reaction. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The evidence was already sitting between us, silent and undeniable. Her sister was the first to break the stillness. I think we should go, she said to the others, her voice careful but firm. Give them space. There were murmurs of agreement. Chairs scraped. Shoes were slipped back on. One of Lena's friends touched my arm on the way out. I'm sorry, she whispered. Not, I'm sorry this happened, just, I'm sorry. When the door finally closed, the house felt hollowed out. Lena sank into a chair like her bones had turned to water. She covered her face with her hands. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said through her fingers. I leaned against the counter. My legs felt steady, but only because I'd already spent all my shaking days alone. I know, I said, but you did. She looked up at me then. I was drowning, she said, and you were grieving too. I didn't want to burden you. The irony almost made me laugh. I didn't burden me, I said. You replaced me. That was when she cried. Not quietly, not gracefully, the kind of crying that steals your breath and leaves you gasping. I waited, let it pass through her. There was no satisfaction in watching it, just sadness, a deep, bone-level sadness for the life we were letting go of. I want a divorce, I said, gently. The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They landed and stayed. She nodded once. I figured. Over the next few weeks, the truth traveled faster than I expected. Her sister called me, apologized, told me she wished she'd noticed sooner. Her parents asked for a meeting, neutral ground, coffee shop, careful voices. They didn't defend her. They didn't condemn her. They just listened. Marcus, on the other hand, did exactly what men like him do when the illusion breaks. He called me. I think there's been a misunderstanding, he said, smooth as glass. Lena needed support. I offered it. Nothing inappropriate. I pictured the hotel room, the dress, the messages about covering expenses. You funded my wife's escape from her marriage. Call it whatever you want. There was a pause, then colder. She's an adult. She made her own choices. So did you, I replied, and now we're done talking. I blocked his number. Lena moved out at the end of the month. She took her clothes, her books, the framed photo of us on our honeymoon that neither of us could look at anymore. She left the key on the counter. The night she moved out, I walked through the room slowly, not to mourn, to take inventory. The chipped mug we always fought over, the couch cushion that dipped where she used to sit, the faint outline on the wall where the crib was supposed to go. I slept better that night than I had in months. The divorce wasn't ugly. Painful, yes, but honest. There were no accusations left to fling, just paperwork and quiet acknowledgments of what had ended. Some people took her side. They said grief makes people do strange things, that healing looks different for everyone. They weren't wrong. But healing doesn't require deception, and it doesn't demand that someone else be sacrificed to make it work. I didn't correct them. I didn't argue. I just kept moving forward. Because dignity, I learned, isn't loud. It's consistent, and it doesn't need an audience.
The house didn't feel empty after Lena left. It felt quiet in a way that allowed other sounds back in. The tick of the clock without anxiety, the soft rush of water in the pipes, my own breathing at night. Grief was still there, of course. It didn't pack its bags and follow her out the door. But it changed shape. It became something I could carry without losing myself. For a long time, I woke up early,
Not because I had to, but because my body no longer resisted the day. I started running again, slow and clumsy at first, my lungs burning in the cold morning air. I cooked real meals. I let the sunlight reach the corners of the house instead of keeping the curtains half drawn like before. I didn't rush to forgive Lena, and I didn't rush to hate her either. We met once more, weeks after the papers were signed. Neutral place, public bench near the river. Autumn had started to settle in, the leaves drifting down in quiet spirals. She looked smaller somehow, not broken, just human. "I never thanked you," she said, "for not humiliating me, for letting me end this with some dignity." I watched the water move past us. "The truth did that on its own." She nodded. "I really was drowning. I know. I was too." She swallowed. "I wish I'd chosen differently. I wish a lot of things. But wishing doesn't build a future." We sat there a while longer, not as enemies, not as partners, just two people acknowledging the weight of what they'd survived and what they'd lost. When she stood to leave, she hesitated. "I hope you find peace." "I already have," I said, and I meant it. Healing, I learned, isn't about erasing pain. It's about telling the truth early enough that it doesn't turn into poison. Months passed. People stopped asking questions. The story faded into something softer, less sharp. I stopped being the husband whose wife had an affair and became just a man again, someone with a routine, a life, a future that wasn't defined by what had been taken from him. On the anniversary of the miscarriage, I drove out of town alone. I stood somewhere quiet, somewhere honest, and let myself feel everything I'd delayed feeling. The loss, the anger, the love that had nowhere to go. And then I let it go. I didn't win. There was no victory in any of this. But I kept my integrity. I didn't beg. I didn't perform. I didn't disappear to make someone else more comfortable. I stayed present. I stayed honest. And in the end, that was enough. Sometimes people ask me if I regret waiting, if I should have confronted her earlier, demanded answers, fought louder. I don't, because the moment she revealed herself, she also freed me. No shouting could have done that, no accusations, just the truth, placed gently but firmly in the center of the room. If you were in my place, would you have waited too? Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, consider supporting the channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters more than you know.